If you'd love to hit your driver more powerfully and with more control, you might want to look at the width of your stance, and the answer may not be what you're thinking it is. You see, very often we think of power, we think of control, we go for this big wide stance. But what I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm going to be really honest here, I've made this mistake in my coaching years gone by before I truly understood a bit more about anatomy. One of the things that ends up happening is we end up with a position in our leg which is often known as abducted in anatomy world or physiotherapy world. So let me just show you what that means. We go for this wider stance, particularly with the driver. We end up posting a bit on our left leg. The right leg goes out an angle so you can see it. The right leg is at this angle, the left leg is a lot straighter. That is known as an abducted position. Now, why does that matter to you? Well, actually, it does the reverse of what you want it to do. It actually is stopping you from transferring weight. And we want to be able to shift weight, all very subtly, of course, but we want to be able to do it. This leg position is stopping that from happening. That could cause you problems, potentially could lead to some injury. So actually, having a wider stance isn't necessarily going to lead to more power, more control, because you end up, probably the simplest way I can put it is, you end up as two halves of a body, because this is working very differently to the top half. If, however, we can find a stance position and an anatomical position where our legs and our hips are going to work properly, which allows the spine to work properly, we end up much more as one whole body making the golf swing rather than two separate halves. We all know that's a much nicer feeling. So have a play around with it yourself. It could be different for every person, and that's why it's important you have a play and experiment with it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go to your normal setup position. Let's say, for example, it's here. And then what I want you to do is to make a swing, and then I'm going to ask you to bring that right leg underneath that hip, and then go ahead and swing. And naturally just start to notice what changes, particularly in your lower half. Do you suddenly feel like your hips move differently? Do you feel like the weight shifts a bit more naturally onto your back foot without going too far? Do you feel like you get more control? If you begin to control your midsection, your legs better, you tend to get control throughout the rest of the swing. Less likely to be with the lead leg, but for some of us, again, it can be this way. So you might want to bring this one in and this one in a little bit to get that left leg underneath the hip. And again, then go ahead and swing. And you might feel like actually your weight shift is a bit more controlled. You see, weight shift is a very subtle thing. We're not looking for tons and tons of weight shift. It's a very subtle thing. At all points during the swing, I should very easily be able to get on both feet. That's where I want to be, okay? Yes, I'm moving a bit, but with the smallest movement, I should feel like I'm back in center. I'm never going too far away from center. So, does having a wider stance relate to more power in the driver? Not necessarily, because you could end up muscling the shot and losing the control and getting the full power of that ground if you know how to use your lower half properly. So go ahead and play, use a mirror, use a video, and have a look at your own stance and just make sure that both legs are fairly symmetrical, which is going to put the center of your body in the middle of your feet. Far more effective. And again, once a minute, I'm going to admit, hold my hands up, that's slightly different to what I used to believe. But now having understood it a bit more and witnessed enough people doing it the correct way, it's far easier on the body and tends to end up with far better results. You can even go ahead and hit shots with your feet together with the driver, start from there and then gradually just widen a little bit at a time to find out where your optimum is. By all means, try really wide ones to see what it's like. Don't judge it just on the result initially, judge it on what it feels like in your own body. I think your body will give you great feedback. So let's just try one with our feet together here. Settle down, really nice and settled. Pretty good. Might play like that a little bit more often with my feet together. So go ahead and try it for me. Find out what it's like when you get your legs a bit more symmetrical, find out what your optimum width of stance is and see where you are that gives you the most control and power and feels good in your body so you feel like you get one whole integrated golf swing. Go ahead and let me know.